The Zelani science vessel Gentle Current drifted through the cold darkness of space like a wounded bird. Its beautiful blue and silver hull, once shining with bioluminescent patterns, now flickered weakly with distress signals that painted the darkness in desperate colors. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his ship, his 4 slender arms trembling as he watched the sensor displays show dozens of approaching enemy vessels. The Korthik warships looked nothing like the elegant Silani craft. They were dark, twisted, things that moved through space like giant metallic insects. Their hulls were covered in spikes and cutting tools, designed not for exploration or science, but for one purpose only: harvesting other species. Veltar had seen what these creatures did to captured worlds. They did not simply conquer or rule. They consumed everything, turning entire planets into empty husks. "Captain," whispered his communications officer, a young Zelani named Morith, whose scales had turned pale with fear. "The Korthik fleet will reach us in less than 1 hour. Our engines are still damaged from their last attack. We cannot run." Veltar closed his large, dark eyes for a moment. His people were scientists and philosophers, not warriors. They had never needed to fight because the galaxy had always been peaceful. The Zelani had spent thousands of years studying the stars, creating beautiful art, and sharing knowledge with other peaceful species. They had no weapons on their ships because they had never imagined needing them. "How many Korthik ships are coming?" Veltar asked, though he already feared. The answer: 43 vessels, Captain, Morith replied, including 3 of their harvester ships. They mean to take our entire crew for processing. The captain shuddered. Processing was what the Korthik called their method of turning captured aliens into food and raw materials. No one who was processed ever returned. Entire worlds had vanished. This way, their population simply consumed by the hungry swarm. "Send the emergency transmission," Veltar ordered. "Broadcast it on all frequencies across the galaxy. Someone must help us. The Alvari Federation, the Cosmic Council, anyone who will listen." Morith began working at his console, his fingers dancing over the organic controls that grew from the ship like branches. The Zelani had always believed in cooperation and mutual aid. Surely someone in the vast galaxy would answer their call for help. The message was simple and desperate. Veltar spoke into the recorder himself, his melodic voice carrying across the stars. "This is Captain Veltar of the Zelani vessel, Gentle Current. We are under attack by Korthik raiders. Our people are dying. Our worlds are being consumed. We are a peaceful species with no weapons, no military, no way to defend ourselves. We beg any civilization that receives this message to help us. We offer everything we have in exchange for aid. Please, if there is anyone out there who can fight these monsters, come quickly. We are running out of time." The transmission shot out into space, carried by quantum relays toward the heart of the galaxy where the great civilizations lived. Veltar hoped it would reach the wise Alvari Federation, who were known for their advanced technology and peaceful ways. Or perhaps the ancient Cosmic Council would finally act to stop the Korthik threat that had been growing for months. But space is vast, and signals can take unexpected paths. The Zelani distress call bounced through relay after relay, growing weaker. With each jump, it passed through systems controlled by the Alvari, who received it but marked it for committee review in 3 standard days. It reached the Cosmic Council chambers, where it was filed as item 2847 on the next meeting agenda, scheduled for the following week. The signal continued to travel, growing fainter as it moved away from the galactic core toward the empty regions, where few civilizations bothered to build colonies. It passed dead systems and empty space, searching for anyone who might listen. Finally, after traveling for hours through the quantum network, the weak signal reached a small blue planet on the very edge of the galaxy, a world so remote that most galactic maps did not even include it. On Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was working the night shift at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence facility in New Mexico. The city arrays had been scanning space for alien signals for over a century, finding nothing but cosmic background radiation and the occasional pulsar. Jake had been doing this job for 5 years and had never expected to actually find anything. That changed at 2:47 in the morning when every computer in the facility began screaming alerts. Jake nearly spilled his coffee as he rushed to the main console, where displays showed signal patterns unlike anything he had ever seen. The transmission was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly not from Earth. "Holy hell," Jake whispered, staring at the cascading data. The signal was encoded in a mathematical pattern that suggested advanced technology, but the AI translation systems were struggling with the alien language. Jake immediately called his superior, Colonel Danny Carter, waking him up at home. "Sir, you need to get down here right now. We have a confirmed alien transmission, and I think it's some kind of distress call." Carter arrived 30 minutes later, still in his pajamas under a hastily thrown-on uniform. He stood behind Jake. As the computers worked to decode the message, their quantum processors struggling with linguistic patterns that had never evolved on Earth. "How long until we have a translation?" Carter asked. "The AI says maybe 6 more hours for a rough version," Jake replied. "But sir, look at these signal characteristics. This thing traveled through some kind of relay network. It's not just a message, it's a cry for help from someone very far away." Carter picked up the secure phone and dialed a number that connected directly to the Pentagon. "This is Colonel Carter at SETI Command. I need to speak to General Hayes immediately." "Yes, I know what time it is." "This is a Code 7 situation." While they waited for the translation, Jake studied the signal patterns. There was something desperate about the transmission, something that suggested whoever sent it was running out of time. The signal strength was weak, as if it had traveled a very long distance, but the encoding was sophisticated enough to suggest a highly advanced civilization. When the partial translation finally came through, Jake felt his blood run cold. The message spoke of peaceful aliens being hunted by creatures called Korthic, of entire worlds being consumed, of a species with no weapons begging for someone, anyone, to help them fight back. "Sir," Jake said quietly, "I think we just became humanity's first contact with an interstellar war." Colonel Carter read the translation twice before picking up the phone again. This time he called Admiral Lisa Hayes, commander of the Terran Defense Force 3rd Fleet. Hayes was a legend in military circles, a woman who had earned her rank fighting pirates in the asteroid belts and corporate wars on the outer colonies. "Admiral," Carter said when Hayes answered, "we have a situation that requires immediate attention. We've received what appears to be a distress call from an alien civilization under attack by hostile forces." There was silence on the line before Hayes spoke. "Colonel, are you telling me we have confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence?" "Yes, ma'am. And they're asking for military assistance." Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "I'll be there in 2 hours. Do not discuss this with anyone else until I arrive." As they waited for the Admiral, Jake continued to monitor the signal. It was getting weaker, which suggested that either the transmitter was losing power or the source was moving farther away. Either possibility was bad news for whoever was sending the message. When Admiral Hayes arrived at SETI Command, she brought with her a team of military linguists and xenobiologists. The Admiral was a small woman with iron-gray hair and scars on her hands from her years in combat. She read the translated message without showing any emotion, but Jake could see her jaw tighten with each line. "How reliable is this translation?" Hayes asked. "About 70% accurate," replied Dr. Susan Wright, the lead linguist on Hayes' team. But the meaning is clear. These Zelani are pacifists being hunted by predators. They're offering everything they have in exchange for military aid. Hayes studied the star charts that showed the approximate source of the transmission. That's nearly 300 light-years from Earth. At maximum quantum drive speed, it would take our fastest ships 18 hours to reach them. "Ma'am," Jake interrupted, "the signal is getting weaker. I don't think these people have 18 hours." Admiral Hayes was quiet for several minutes, staring at the alien message. Finally, she picked up her secure communicator and contacted Fleet Command. "This is Admiral Hayes. I need an immediate conference with President Clark and the Joint Chiefs. We have a first contact situation that requires military intervention." The call went through to the White House Situation Room, where President Robert Clark was already meeting with his advisors about the alien signal. The president's voice crackled through the communicator. "Admiral Hayes, I've been briefed on the situation. What's your assessment?" "Mr. President," Hayes replied, "we have peaceful aliens being massacred by hostile forces. They've asked for help, and we have the capability to provide it. My Third Fleet is currently conducting exercises near Pluto. We could be at their location in less than 20 hours. Admiral, we're talking about humanity's first contact with alien intelligence." The Terran Defense Force Third Fleet hung in space near Pluto like a pack of metallic predators waiting to hunt. 38 warships of various sizes and designs floated in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the distant light of the sun. Each vessel bore the scars and modifications that came from decades of fighting in the harsh environments of Earth's solar system, where pirates, corporate armies, and rebel colonies had forced humanity to become experts at warfare. At the center of the formation was the dreadnought Relentless, a massive ship that stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was covered in armor plating that had been tested against every weapon humanity could devise, and its weapon batteries could level entire cities if needed. The ship looked exactly like what it was, a tool designed for bringing overwhelming force to any battlefield. Captain Sam Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Relentless, watching his crew prepare for humanity's first interstellar military operation. Rodriguez was a veteran of the asteroid belt wars, where corporate mining fleets had fought bloody battles over mineral rights. He had learned his trade fighting pirates and raiders in environments that would kill most people, and now he was about to take that knowledge to the stars. "All ships report ready for quantum jump," announced Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her position at the navigation console. Walsh was one of the fleet's best nav officers, capable of plotting courses through quantum space that would bring the fleet exactly where they needed to be at exactly the right time. Rodriguez nodded and opened the channel. To the rest of the fleet, "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez aboard the Relentless. In 30 minutes, we will make humanity's first jump to another star system. We are going there to help peaceful aliens who are being attacked by raiders called the Korthic. Intelligence suggests these enemies use swarm tactics with light ships, but they have superior numbers. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and show the galaxy what human military doctrine looks like." Throughout the fleet, crews made final preparations for battle. On the destroyer Iron Fist, Captain Maria Santos walked through her ship, checking weapon systems and talking to her crew. Santos had earned her reputation fighting smugglers in the outer system, where quick thinking and aggressive tactics were the difference between life and death. "Listen up, people," Santos told her assembled crew. "These Korthic have been terrorizing peaceful aliens for months. They think they can harvest entire civilizations because nobody has ever fought back effectively. They have never faced humans before, and they have no idea what they are about to experience. The Iron Fist was designed for close-range combat, with heavy armor and weapons that could punch through almost any defense. Santos had modified her ship over the years, adding extra shielding and more powerful engines that would let her get close enough to use her most devastating weapons. Nearby, the carrier Normandy prepared to launch its fighter squadrons. Wing Commander Tony Blake stood in the launch bay addressing his pilots, men and women who had learned to fly in the dangerous space around Earth, where one mistake meant death. Pilots, according to intelligence, these Korthik use swarming tactics. With ships that have light armor but good speed, Blake said. Our Falcon fighters were designed to punch through exactly that kind of formation. Each of you has more combat experience than most alien species acquire in their entire lifetimes. Use that experience. The Falcon fighters were humanity's newest space superiority craft, built after analyzing every space battle humans had ever fought. They were fast, heavily armed, and designed to operate in environments that would destroy most alien spacecraft. Each pilot had trained for years in Earth's dangerous orbital zones, where radiation, debris, and hostile forces created conditions found nowhere else in the known galaxy. Admiral Lisa Hayes moved through the fleet via shuttle, visiting each ship to personally brief the senior officers. Hayes had commanded fleets in 3 different wars, and she understood that the key to victory was making sure every person in the fleet knew their role and trusted their commanders. The Zelani are pacifists, Hayes told the assembled captains. They have no military, no weapons, no concept of organized violence. The Korthik have been harvesting their people because nobody has ever fought back. We are going to change that situation permanently. The fleet's composition reflected human military thinking that had developed through centuries of warfare. Heavy assault ships like the Relentless were designed to smash through enemy formations and destroy the largest threats. Destroyers like the Iron Fist could engage multiple enemies at close range while providing cover for larger vessels. Carriers like the Normandy could project power across vast distances using fighter squadrons that could adapt to any tactical situation. Unlike the elegant, peaceful ships common throughout the galaxy, human vessels looked dangerous even when they were not fighting. Their hulls were covered in weapon mounts, sensor arrays, and defensive systems that gave them the appearance of mechanical predators. Every line of their design spoke of a species that had learned to survive by being better at violence than anything else they encountered. Chief Engineer Kate Murphy worked in the engine room of the Relentless, making final adjustments to the quantum drive systems that would carry the fleet to the Zelani home system. Murphy had spent 20 years maintaining human starships, and she knew that mechanical reliability often meant the difference between victory and defeat in combat. Quantum drive systems are operating at 102% efficiency, Murphy reported to Captain Rodriguez. All weapon systems show green across the board. Armor plating has been reinforced at weak points identified during our last engagement. This ship is ready for whatever we find out there. The human fleet carried nearly 50,000 personnel, including Marines who specialized in boarding actions and planetary assault operations. Colonel Jack Turner commanded the fleet's Marine contingent, soldiers who had trained for combat in every environment humans had encountered. Marines, we do not know if this operation will require ground forces, Turner told his assembled troops. But if these Korthik have landed on Zelani worlds, we may need to dig them out the hard way. Remember that we are representing humanity. In our first contact with alien civilizations, show them what human Marines can accomplish. As the final minutes before departure ticked away, Captain Rodriguez received a message from Admiral Hayes aboard her command ship. Sam, long-range sensors are picking up quantum signatures from the direction of the Zelani system. It looks like the situation is getting worse while we sit here talking about it. Rodriguez felt his jaw tighten. Every minute they delayed meant more innocent aliens would die at the hands of raiders who had never faced serious opposition. Admiral, request permission to begin jump sequence immediately. My ship is ready and every minute counts. Permission granted, Hayes replied. All ships. This is Admiral Hayes. Begin quantum jump sequence. Target coordinates have been transmitted to all navigation officers. Jump in 30 seconds. Throughout the fleet, quantum drives began to charge with energy that warped space itself. The massive ships started to shimmer as reality bent around them, preparing to fold space and time to carry humanity's military might across. Hundreds of light years and mere hours, Rodriguez stood on his bridge, watching the countdown. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency that came from years of training and combat experience. These were people who had learned their trade fighting in the asteroid belts, defending colonies from raiders, and battling corporate armies in the cold vacuum of space. Quantum jump in 10 seconds, Walsh announced. All ships report ready. Rodriguez looked out at the stars, knowing that when he saw them again, humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. They would be active participants in galactic affairs, and their first act would be to show hostile aliens what happened when they threatened innocent people. Jump, Rodriguez ordered. The 38 ships of the Third Fleet vanished from the solar system in a flash of twisted space-time, carrying humanity's response to the first alien distress call they had ever received. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that its children were about to announce their presence to the galaxy in the most human way possible, by arriving at a battle and immediately making it their own. The quantum tunnel carried the fleet through folded space at speeds that made light seem slow. Inside their ships, human crews made final preparations for combat while automated systems calculated arrival coordinates and tactical deployments. They were traveling toward a war they did not start, to help people they had never met, against enemies they knew almost nothing about, but none of that mattered to the men and women of the Third Fleet. Someone had called for help, and humans had never been able to ignore that sound. They were about to introduce the galaxy to a concept that most peaceful civilizations had forgotten. Sometimes, the only way to stop evil was to meet it with superior firepower and the will to use it without hesitation. The Korthek raiders, who were busy harvesting Zalani colonies, had no idea that their victims had managed to contact the one species in the galaxy that considered warfare to be both an art form and a moral obligation. The human fleet dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Zalani home system, like predators emerging from a nightmare. 38 warships materialized in perfect formation, their dark hulls immediately beginning to scan the system for threats and targets. What they found made even veteran soldiers pause in shock at the scope of the destruction before them. 3 planets burned in the distance, their surfaces glowing with the heat of massive fires that could be seen from space. Elegant Zalani cities that had taken centuries to build were being consumed by flames, while strange geometric patterns spread across continents like infections. The beautiful blue and green worlds that had once supported billions of peaceful aliens were being systematically stripped of everything valuable. Captain Sam Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Relentless, watching the tactical displays update with horrifying information. "Dear God," he whispered, as the sensors revealed the true extent of the Korthek operation. "They are not just raiding these worlds, they are eating them." Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared on the main screen from her command ship, her scarred face showing. No emotion as she processed the intelligence reports flooding in from all ships. "All vessels, we are looking at industrial-scale genocide in progress. The Korthek are using harvester ships to literally drink up entire cities and process the population for raw materials." Lieutenant Amy Walsh worked frantically at her console, trying to identify which of the fleeing ships contained survivors and which were Korthek raiders. "Admiral, sensors show at least 40 Korthek vessels in the system, including 6 of their harvester ships. They appear to be strip mining 3 planets simultaneously while hunting down refugee vessels. The Korthek ships looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described: dark, twisted vessels that resembled giant insects more than spacecraft. Their hulls were covered in cutting tools, extraction devices, and what appeared to be organic components that pulsed with sickly light. They moved through space in swarms, surrounding Zelani refugee ships like parasites attacking a host. Communications. Try to reach any Zelani vessels that are still running, Rodriguez ordered. Let them know help has arrived and tell them to take cover. On one of the fleeing Zelani ships, Captain Veltar was trying to coordinate the evacuation of his homeworld when new quantum signatures appeared on his sensors. His communications. Officer Morith looked up from his console with confusion written across his scaled features. Captain, we are detecting 38 new vessels that just arrived at the system edge, Morith reported. The quantum signatures do not match any known galactic civilization. They are not Aldari, not Cosmic Council, not anyone in our databases. Veltar felt hope flicker in his chest for the first time in days. Open a communication channel. Perhaps the Aldari Federation has sent ships we have never seen before. The channel opened, and instead of the melodic tones of Aldari speech, a harsh alien voice spoke in heavily accented galactic common. The face that appeared on their screen was unlike anything in Zelani experience. A scarred human female with short gray hair and cold eyes that seemed to have seen too much violence. Zelani vessel, this is Admiral Lisa Hayes of the Terran Defense Force, the alien said. We received your distress call. Take cover immediately and identify any ships containing civilians. We are about to engage all hostile forces in this system. Veltar stared at the strange alien face, trying to process what he was seeing. The creature looked predatory in a way that made his primitive instincts scream warnings, but her words offered the help his people desperately needed. Admiral Hayes, we are grateful for any assistance, but the Korthik have overwhelming numbers, and their weapons are designed to disable our ships for harvesting. How many vessels do you command? 38 ships and 50,000 personnel, Hayes replied curtly. Stand by for immediate engagement. Before Veltar could respond, his sensors lit up with energy signatures unlike anything he had ever witnessed. The human fleet had spread out across the system in a formation that seemed designed to trap the Korthik forces while protecting the fleeing Zelani refugees. Then the humans opened fire. The first salvo from the human fleet struck 3 Korthik harvester ships simultaneously. Kinetic rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed punched through bioship hulls like they were made of paper. Plasma beams burned hotter than stellar cores, turning Korthak vessels into expanding clouds of superheated gas. Energy weapons that the humans called particle beams simply erased sections of enemy ships from existence. Captain Maria Santos brought the destroyer Iron Fist directly into the largest group of Korthik raiders, her ship's heavy armor sparking as it absorbed enemy fire that barely scratched the paint. Target their harvester ships first, she ordered her weapons officer. These people need their cities back, and we are going to give them back. The Iron Fist's main guns opened fire in a continuous stream of destruction that carved through the Korthik formation like a blade through tissue. Santos had spent years fighting pirates and raiders in Earth's asteroid belts, and she knew exactly how to break up enemy formations that relied on swarming tactics. Wing. Commander Tony Blake led the first wave of Falcon fighters from the carrier. Normandy, his pilots screaming toward the nearest group of Korthik ships with weapons charged and targeting systems locked. Remember your training, people, Blake transmitted to his squadron. These bugs picked on the wrong neighborhood, and now they get to learn why humans are the apex predator of Earth. The Falcon fighters moved through space like a school of mechanical sharks, their advanced engines allowing them to accelerate and maneuver in ways that defied what most galactic civilizations thought was possible. Each fighter carried enough firepower to destroy ships 10 times its size, and the pilots had trained in combat environments that would kill most alien species. The Korthic response was immediate but completely ineffective. Their weapons had been designed to disable and capture peaceful civilizations, not to fight against an enemy that seemed to treat warfare as both an art form and a religious experience. Bioenergy beams that could paralyze Zelani crews barely registered on human armor systems. Acid clouds that dissolved most known hull materials were neutralized by human defensive fields before they could make contact. Lieutenant Jenny White, the communications officer aboard the Relentless, intercepted Korthic transmissions as the battle developed. The alien raiders were broadcasting in panic, trying to understand what they were fighting against. "Admiral, the Korthic are calling for reinforcements and trying to identify our species. They have never encountered anything like human military doctrine." Hayes smiled grimly as she watched her ship systematically destroy every Korthic vessel in the system. "Good. Let them call for help. I want the entire galaxy to know what happens when you attack innocent people in human space." The battle was not really a battle at all. It was an extermination carried out with ruthless efficiency by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. Human ships moved through space like they owned it, targeting enemy vessels with precision that seemed impossible, and destroying them with weapons that the Korthic had never imagined could exist. Captain Rodriguez coordinated the fleet's movements from the bridge of the Relentless, watching as his ships eliminated 43 Korthic vessels in less than 4 hours. The enemy had superior numbers, but they were fighting an opponent that had learned warfare on a planet where everything tried to kill everything else. "All Korthic harvester ships have been destroyed," reported Lieutenant Walsh. "Sensors show no remaining hostile vessels in the system. We have complete tactical control." But the humans were not finished. Captain Santos took the iron fist down to the surface of the nearest burning planet, where Korthic ground forces were still processing captured Zelani civilians. Marine Colonel Jack Turner led his troops in a series of planetary assaults that liberated prisoner camps and destroyed Korthic equipment with methodical precision. "Marines, we are fighting to save innocent people from monsters," Turner told his troops as they prepared for orbital insertion. "Show these Korthic what human infantry can accomplish when properly motivated." The Marines landed in drop pods that could survive impacts that would destroy most vehicles, then spread out across the planet's surface to hunt down every remaining Korthic raider. The aliens had never faced ground troops who seemed to enjoy combat and who treated impossible odds as merely another challenge to overcome. On the Zelani ship Gentle Current, Captain Veltar watched the impossible happen as human forces swept through his star system like an avenging storm. The Korthic raiders who had seemed invincible just hours before were being methodically eliminated by aliens, who fought with a combination of advanced technology and barely controlled violence. "Captain," Morith said quietly, "the humans are requesting permission to land medical teams on our refugee ships. They say they can help treat our wounded and provide supplies." Veltar nodded, still trying to process what he had witnessed. "Tell them yes. These humans may look like predators, but they came here to help strangers they had never met. That makes them more civilized than most of the galaxy." When the human medical teams arrived on Zelani ships, they brought news of humanity's intervention in the Zelani system spread through the galaxy's quantum communication networks faster than anyone had expected. Within hours of the battle's end, encrypted recordings of the engagement were being analyzed in the highest levels of every major galactic civilization. What they saw in those recordings changed everything they thought they knew about warfare, technology, and the nature of civilized behavior. In the crystal spires of the Aldari Federation capital, Supreme Counselor Thais watched the battle recordings. For the 5th time, her elegant features twisted with something between fascination and horror. The Aldari were considered the most advanced military force in the galaxy, with weapons and ships that had kept peace for over 1,000 years. But watching the human fleet in action made their capabilities seem primitive by comparison. These humans destroyed 43 Korthic vessels in less than 4 hours. Dyza said to her assembled council, "Our best estimates suggested it would take our entire first fleet at least 2 weeks to accomplish the same result, and we would have suffered significant casualties." Defense Minister Zara studied the tactical analysis with growing concern. "Supreme Counselor, look at these weapon signatures. The humans are using kinetic projectiles that move at 20% of light speed. Their plasma weapons burn at temperatures we can barely measure. Most disturbing, they seem to have designed their entire military doctrine around the concept of overwhelming force applied without hesitation." The recording showed human ships moving through space with an aggressive confidence that no galactic civilization had ever displayed. When Korthic vessels tried to surrender, the humans continued firing until every enemy ship was completely destroyed. When Korthic ground forces attempted to negotiate, human marines simply eliminated them and moved on to the next target. "This level of violence is unprecedented in galactic history," observed Cultural Minister Veth. "These humans treat warfare like it is some kind of natural behavior. Listen to these intercepted communications from their ships during the battle." The council chamber filled with human voices speaking in their harsh alien language. Even through the translation software, the enthusiasm in their voices was unmistakable. Human crew members were laughing during combat, singing their strange songs between weapon salvos and what appeared to be competing with each other over who could destroy the most enemy ships. "They enjoy fighting," Lysis said quietly. "These humans actually take pleasure in violence. How is such a thing possible?" On the neutral world of Haven, representatives from dozens of galactic civilizations gathered in emergency session to discuss the implications of humanity's sudden appearance. The Galactic Council chambers, normally a place of calm debate and measured discussion, buzzed with nervous energy as delegates tried to understand what they were dealing with. Ambassador Korath of the Peaceful Assembly stood before the gathered representatives, his forearms gesturing at the holographic displays showing human ship designs. "Fellow beings, we must consider the possibility that we have encountered a species that has evolved along completely different lines than the rest of galactic civilization. These humans appear to have developed technology specifically for the purpose of killing other sentient beings." The evidence was overwhelming. Human ships carried no scientific equipment, no cultural artifacts, no diplomatic facilities. They were pure weapons platforms designed with one purpose: destroying other spacecraft as efficiently as possible. Even their support vessels looked like they had been built for war rather than exploration or trade. Representative Melf from the Cosmic Harmony Coalition raised a tentacle in concern. "The implications are terrifying. If humans can destroy Korthic fleets this easily, what could they do to civilizations that have no military capability at all?" But there was another side to the story, and it came from the most unlikely source. Captain Veltar of the Zelani vessel Gentle Current had requested permission to address the council, and his testimony painted the humans in a very different light. "Honored representatives," Veltar said, his melodic voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "I was there when the humans arrived. I saw what they did, and I can tell you that these beings are not monsters. They are saviors." The council chamber fell silent as Veltar continued his testimony. "When we offered to pay the humans with our most precious crystals, with our advanced technology, with anything we possessed, their Admiral Hayes told us that protecting innocent people was payment enough. They asked for nothing in return for saving our entire species from extinction." Veltar activated a holographic display showing recordings from Zelani refugee ships during the battle. The images showed human medical teams working alongside Zelani doctors to treat wounded civilians. Human engineers helping to repair damaged life support systems. Human Marines distributing food and supplies to refugee families who had lost everything. These humans may be warriors, but they are warriors with honor, Veltar explained. They could have demanded tribute, taken our resources, claimed our worlds as payment for their assistance. Instead, they asked only that we remember their kindness and extend the same help to others who might need it. The testimony forced the Council to reconsider their initial assessment. Perhaps these humans were not the galactic threat they had first appeared to be. Perhaps they were something even more dangerous, a species with both the capability for unlimited violence and the moral compass to use that capability responsibly. On Earth, President Robert Clark addressed a joint session of Congress and the United Nations General Assembly, trying to explain to his own species what they had just become. The president stood behind the podium in the Capitol building, looking out at faces that reflected the same mixture of excitement and concern that was spreading throughout human civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 days ago we were alone. In the universe, Clark began. Today we know that we are part of a galactic community containing hundreds of intelligent species. More importantly, we have learned that our unique history has given us capabilities that appear to be both rare and valuable. The early reports from Admiral Hayes painted a picture of a galaxy filled with peaceful civilizations that had never developed effective military technology. Most species had evolved on worlds with stable climates, abundant resources, and few natural predators. They had never faced the constant environmental pressures that had shaped human evolution. Dr. Helen Foster, now serving as Earth's leading expert on galactic civilization, presented her findings to the assembled leaders. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, our preliminary analysis suggests that Earth is what galactic science calls a death world. The environmental conditions that shaped human evolution are apparently extremely rare in the galaxy. Foster activated a holographic display showing comparative planetary data. Most intelligent species evolved on worlds with gravity between 60 and 80% of Earth normal. Average temperatures within a narrow range. Stable weather patterns. Limited geological activity. Few predatory species. In contrast, Earth has higher gravity, extreme weather, active tectonics, and an ecosystem where nearly everything is trying to kill everything else. The implications were staggering. Humanity had evolved into the galactic equivalent of apex predators, but they had done so while also developing complex social structures, advanced technology, and moral systems that emphasized protecting the weak and innocent. Secretary of Defense Linda Carter raised the question that everyone was thinking. Dr. Foster, what does this mean for humanity's future relationship with galactic civilization? Foster paused before answering, knowing that her words would help shape human policy for generations. Madam Secretary, it appears that we have accidentally become the galaxy's police force. We are receiving dozens of requests for military assistance every day. Pirates, raiders, hostile species that other civilizations cannot handle on their own. The president looked out at the assembled representatives, seeing the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. So we have a choice to make. Do we help these peaceful species defend themselves, or do we stay isolated and let them suffer? The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. Humanity had never been able to ignore calls for help from innocent people, and they were not going to start now. The question was not whether to help, but how to help responsibly. Admiral Haas, participating via quantum communicator from the Zelani system, provided the military perspective. Mr. President, we have the capability to make a real difference in galactic affairs. These peaceful species have been victims of predators and raiders for centuries because they had no way to fight back effectively. We can change that. The Admiral's proposal was both simple and revolutionary. Humanity would establish a military presence in key galactic regions, providing protection for peaceful civilizations in exchange for resources, technology, and basing rights. It would be a mutual defense arrangement that benefited everyone involved. The galaxy needs protectors, Hayes continued. We need allies and trading partners. This could be the beginning of something unprecedented, a galactic civilization where peaceful species can focus on science, art, and culture while knowing that someone is watching out. 3 months after the Zalani rescue, the human embassy on the neutral world of Haven processed its 700th request for military assistance in a single day. Ambassador Patricia Stone sat in her office, looking at reports from across the galaxy, each one describing a different crisis that required human intervention. Pirates attacking trade routes, slavers raiding peaceful colonies, territorial disputes between species that had no way to defend themselves. Stone was a former Marine colonel who had volunteered for diplomatic service when she realized that humanity needed representatives who understood both military capabilities and political consequences. She looked across her desk at her latest visitor, a crystalline being whose people were being systematically harvested by energy parasites that fed on electrical systems. Ambassador Stone, the alien pleaded, his translated voice carrying desperation that needed no interpretation. The Vorthan pirates drain our power cores to sustain their own life processes. We are a silicon-based species with no biological weapons, no way to fight beings of pure energy. But your people's kinetic weapons and plasma systems could destroy them. Stone nodded, already knowing what her response would be. After 3 months of similar requests, she had developed standard procedures for evaluating threats and determining appropriate responses. I will forward your request to Earth Command within the hour, but I should inform you that humanity now charges for military services. We require payment in the form of raw materials, food supplies, or technology transfers. The crystalline being's form brightened with relief. Ambassador, we will gladly provide anything you require. Our people possess advanced crystal growing techniques and energy storage systems that may be valuable to your species. We ask only that you help us survive. This had become the pattern of galactic politics in the months since humanity's first intervention. Species after species discovered that the galaxy contained threats they could not handle alone, but they also learned that help was available for the first time in galactic history. Humanity had quickly established itself as the only effective military force in known space, and they were using that position to build relationships and gather resources. Captain Sam Rodriguez, now commanding the super dreadnought Unbreakable, led the 5th Fleet on patrol through the Andromeda Transit Corridor, one of the major trade routes that connected different regions of the galaxy. His ship had grown to nearly 3 kilometers in length, incorporating technology and design elements from dozens of different species that humanity had helped over the past months. Captain, sensors detect 3 vessels in distress, approximately 2 light hours from our current position, reported Lieutenant Amy Walsh from our navigation station. Energy signatures match the Crimson Horde raider pattern we encountered last month. Rodriguez smiled grimly as he opened communications with Admiral Hayes, who now commanded all human military forces from her flagship in the Zalani system. Admiral, we have another Crimson Horde incursion. Request permission to engage with full fleet strength. Permission granted, Sam, Hayes replied. Show them why crime does not pay in human-protected space. And remember to capture their leadership if possible. Intelligence wants to interrogate them about their supply networks. The Unbreakable and its escort ships changed course toward the distress signals, their crews preparing for what had become routine combat operations. The Crimson Horde was one of several raider groups that had been terrorizing peaceful shipping for decades, but they had never faced opposition like the human fleet. Rodriguez addressed his crew over the ship's communication system. All hands, we are responding to another pirate attack. Remember that we are not just protecting innocent traders. We are demonstrating to the entire galaxy that predatory behavior will not be tolerated in civilized space. The battle was over in 18 minutes. Human ships dropped out of quantum. Space already firing, their targeting systems having calculated optimal attack vectors during transit. The Crimson Horde raiders found themselves facing weapons that could destroy their ships before they could even detect the incoming fire. Captain Maria Santos, now commanding the heavy cruiser Vengeance, led the boarding parties that captured the surviving raider crews. Santos had become an expert in alien ship layouts and combat techniques, skills that made her invaluable for operations that required taking prisoners rather than simply destroying enemies. Prisoners secured, Captain Rodriguez, Santos reported. We recovered approximately 400 liberated slaves from various species, plus cargo that appears to have been stolen from at least 12 different worlds. Intelligence estimates suggest we just eliminated about 30% of Crimson Horde operational capacity. This was the new reality of galactic affairs. Human fleets patrolled the major trade routes and responded to distress calls with overwhelming force. Pirates and raiders who had operated with impunity for centuries suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to emerge from quantum space already shooting, already knowing exactly where to hit for maximum damage. Dr. Helen Foster, now serving as Director of Interspecies Relations, worked from her office on Luna to coordinate humanity's growing involvement in galactic civilization. Her latest reports showed that human military forces were now active in over 200 star systems, providing protection and assistance to dozens of different species. The transformation has been remarkable, Foster recorded in her daily log. 6 months ago, most galactic civilizations had never heard of military tactics or weapons technology. Now they are learning to defend themselves using principles we have taught them, while we handle threats that are beyond their capabilities. But the changes were not limited to military affairs. Human traders and diplomats were establishing relationships throughout the galaxy, exchanging Earth's unique technologies and cultural products for resources and knowledge that could benefit both sides. Human entertainment, with its emphasis on conflict and resolution, had become incredibly popular among species that had never experienced such dramatic storytelling. On Earth itself, the transformation was equally dramatic. Dr. Foster's daughter, Jenny, had graduated from the new Interspecies Academy, where human children learned alongside young aliens through quantum communication links. The Academy taught dozens of alien languages, cultural practices, and scientific techniques that had never existed on Earth. "Mom, I want to serve on one of the patrol fleets when I graduate," Jenny told her mother during a video call from the Academy. "I want to help protect people like you and Dad did during the Zelani crisis." Foster smiled, remembering her own decision to volunteer for the first contact mission that had changed everything. "Jenny, the galaxy is a dangerous place, but it is also full of wonders that we are only beginning to understand. If you want to serve, then serve with honor, and remember that we are representing not just humanity, but the idea that civilized beings should protect each other." Admiral Hayes, now Fleet Admiral of all Terran forces, maintained her headquarters in the rebuilt Zelani system, where she coordinated humanity's military operations across the galaxy. Her office looked out on a vista that would have been impossible. Just months earlier, human ships working alongside vessels from dozens of different species to patrol and protect civilized space. Personal log, Fleet Admiral Hayes recording. She spoke into her recorder at the end of another long day. Casualty report for this month: 0 human fatalities, 15 minor injuries from boarding operations. We responded to 43 distress calls, eliminated 2 major pirate organizations, and established diplomatic relations with 6 new species. Hayes paused, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed distant and empty. Request from Earth Command. They want to know if we need additional fleets to handle the increasing volume of requests for assistance. My recommendation: yes. The galaxy is a big place, and there are a lot of people who need help. The numbers told the story of humanity's rapid expansion into galactic affairs. 12 human fleets now patrol different regions of known space, with more under construction in Earth's orbital shipyards. Nearly 200,000 human personnel served throughout the galaxy, working as soldiers, diplomats, traders, and teachers. But perhaps the most significant change was happening in the minds of galactic civilization itself. Species that had been victims for centuries were learning that they did not have to accept predation and exploitation. The example of human intervention had inspired other civilizations to begin developing their own defensive capabilities, using human training and equipment to protect themselves. Captain Viltar, now commanding a New Zilani vessel equipped with human defensive systems, sent regular reports to Earth about the progress his people were making. Admiral Hayes, our new patrol ships successfully repelled a minor Korthic incursion last week using the tactics your people taught us. For the first time in our history, we were able to fight back effectively. This was what Hayes had hoped to achieve from the beginning. Not just human protection for innocent species, but the spread of knowledge and capability that would allow civilized beings to defend themselves. Humanity was teaching the galaxy to be strong, while the galaxy was teaching humanity to dream beyond their own small world.